Bruce, you must have something really good too.
Of course I do. It's Bruce Danielson, and I guess I'm here to entertain you too.
All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Tuesday, June 15, Sioux Falls City Council meeting. Thanks for joining us this evening. Tom, we'll get started by reading our roll, please.
Council members Brecky, Erickson.
Here.
Jensen.
Here.
Kylie.
Here.
Neitzer.
Here.
Selberg.
Yes.
Sale.
Here.
Starr.
Here.
All right, with us tonight to give our invocation, and he's a regular here, Pastor Rick Carlson. Thanks for being back here. Pastor Carlson, he's with Prairie Hills Covenant Church. So I'd ask that you stand for his invocation and then stay standing for our Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Good evening. I want to just read you one verse from the Apostle Paul. He says, "Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about these things." Let's pray together. Holy Father, we want to think about these things tonight. We pray for these men and women who consider important things for our city. Help them to think on these things. Help them to speak words about these things and to take actions on these things. We thank you for men and women who want to do the right thing. And we ask you give them wisdom tonight. In the name of Jesus we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you, Pastor Carlson, for leading us in that invocation tonight. We'll move on to item 4 in our agenda. It's consent agenda approval. Any changes or motion there? Move approval.
Second, Kylie.
All right, motion by Neitzer, seconded by Kylie to approve that. Any discussion there, council? All right, hearing none, let's take a vote on that, please.
Council members Erickson.
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
Kylie.
Yes.
Neitzer.
Yes.
Selberg.
Yes.
Sale.
Yes.
Starr.
Yes.
All right, that passes 7-0. We'll move on to item 19. It's our regular agenda. Look for a motion there, please.
Move to approve. Erickson.
Second, Kylie.
Third motion by Erickson, seconded by Kylie to approve the regular agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to amend the agenda by moving item 52 to follow item 39.
Second.
All right, motion by Erickson, seconded by Kylie to move that item per amendment. Any comments there? All right, we'll vote on that, please.
Council members Erickson.
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
Kylie.
Yes.
Neitzer.
Yes.
Selberg.
Yes.
Sale.
Yes.
Starr.
Yes.
All right, that passes 7-0. Back to the main motion as amended. Any other amendments to make here? All right, then we'll vote on this, please.
Council members Erickson.
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
Kylie.
Yes.
Neitzer.
Yes.
Selberg.
Yes.
Sale.
Yes.
Starr.
Yes.
All right, that passes 7-0. Before we continue on with our agenda, just want to review public input for agenda items. For regular agenda items, comments are limited to 3 minutes unless the item is being presented for final adoption, in which case public input is limited to 5 minutes. For all regular agenda items, comments are limited to the agenda item under consideration at that time only. And during general public input at the end of the meeting, comments will be limited to 3 minutes per person. So with that, we'll move on to our next items, please.
Item 20, new 2021-22 retail malt beverage South Dakota farm wine license requesting off-sale use only for Maple Inc., Gettin' Lit, 4110 West Maple Street, Suite 102, CUP not required, pending final inspections per building services. Item 21, new 2021-22 retail malt beverage South Dakota farm wine license requesting off-sale use only to Maple Incorporated, Gettin' Lit, 2700 South Ellis Road, Suite 102, CUP not required, pending final inspections per building services. Item 22, transfer of 2021 retail liquor license from 4900 Building LLC, Crawford's 214 South Phillips Avenue to OC Crawford's LLC, Crawford's 214 South Phillips Avenue. Item 23, transfer of 2021 retail liquor license from Village River Group LLC, Village on the River, 140 East 10th Street to Teton Development LLC, Homewood Suites, 3620 West of Air Drive. Item 24, transfer of 2021-22 retail malt beverage South Dakota farm wine license and 2021 retail wine and cider license from Sioux Falls Lodging Group LLC, Homewood Suites, 3620 West of Air Drive to Teton Development LLC, Homewood Suites, 3620 West of Air Drive. Item 25, new 2021 retail wine and cider license for BOB LLC, Blue Rock Bar and Grill, 4021 North Bob Hollow Drive. Item 26, transfer of 2021 retail malt beverage South Dakota farm wine license and 2021 retail wine and cider license from Adabella Restaurants LLC, Kaladi's Bistro, 1716 South Minnesota Avenue to Digital Anchors LLC, Kaladi's Bistro, 1716 South Minnesota Avenue. Item 27, renewal of 2021-22 retail malt beverage South Dakota farm wine license for Kaladi's Bistro, 1716 South Minnesota Avenue. Item 28, new 2021-22 retail malt beverage South Dakota farm wine license for Dollar Bills to 4920 North Cliff Avenue, Suite 200 with conditional use permit 13809-2021 approved on March 3rd, 2021. Item 29, request to add video lottery terminals with the new 2021-22 retail malt beverage South Dakota farm wine license for Dollar Bills to 4920 North Cliff Avenue, Suite 200. Item 30, special one-day malt beverage and special one-day wine licenses for the Zoological Society of Sioux Falls, 805 South Kiwanis Avenue for special events on June 16th and September 23rd, 2021. Item 31, special one-day liquor license for T-Slide Incorporated to be operated at 480 East 69th Street for a South Dakota Bar Association mixer on June 17th, 2021. Item 32, special one-day liquor license for T-Slide Incorporated to be operated at 6212 South Pinnacle Place for wedding receptions on June 19th and 26th, 2021. Item 33, special one-day liquor license for T-Slide Incorporated to be operated at 1900 South Perry Place for a wedding reception on June 26, 2021. Item 34, special one-day malt beverage and special one-day wine licenses for Carpenter Bar to be operated at 300 North Sharapa Place parking lot for Sioux Falls Pride on June 26, 2021. Item 35, special one-day malt beverage and special one-day wine licenses for Stockyards Ag Experience, 301 East Falls Park Drive for a private event on June 27, 2021. Item 36, special one-day malt beverage license for the El Riyadh Shriners to be operated at 200 East 12th Street, 1st Avenue between 11th Street and 14th Street, East 12th Street and East 13th Street between Phillips Avenue and 2nd Avenue for Hot Classics Night on July 24th, 2021. Item 37, special one-day malt beverage license for Sioux Falls Sports Authority to be operated at 200 West Russell Street for the Sioux Falls Marathon on August 29th, 2021. And item 38, special one-day liquor license for the Zoological Society of Sioux Falls, 805 South Kiwanis Avenue for a special event on August 5th, 2021.
A lot of them tonight. Good
Yeah.
evening, Jamie.
Good evening, Jamie Palmer with licensing. I'm here to answer any questions that you have on items 20 through 38. And I would like to kindly ask for an amendment to item 34 that would insert language and the grassy area north of Sharapa Place building immediately following the word lot.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. Anyone from the public here to speak to any of these items? 20 to 38. All right. Councilors, you got any questions for Jamie on any of these?
Mr. Mayor, I would move to approve items 20 through 38.
Second, Erickson.
All right. Motion by Starr and seconded by Erickson. Councilor Kiley, did you have a comment or a question?
No, just
Okay.
a motion to make.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Can I get an
Actually, Mr. Mayor.
amendment?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would move to amend item 34 to include the language "and the grassy area north of Sharapa Place building" to immediately follow the word "lot."
Second, Erickson.
All right. Motion by Starr and seconded by Erickson. Let's take a vote on that amendment, please.
Council members Erickson,
Yes.
Jensen. Yes. Kylie,
Yes.
Nitzert,
Yes.
Selberg.
Yes.
Sale,
Yes.
Starr.
Yes.
All right, that passes 7-0. Back to the main motion as amended. Any discussion there? All right, let's take a vote then, please.
Council members Erickson.
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
Kylie,
Yes.
Nitzert,
Yes.
Selberg.
Yes.
Sale,
Yes.
Starr.
Yes.
That passes 7-0. Item 39.
Item 39, second reading, deferred for the meeting of Tuesday, June 1st, 2021. An ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota rezoning property located at southwest corner of South Cliff Avenue and East 85th Street from the AG Agriculture District to the S1 General Institutional and REC Recreation Districts number 14173-2021, and amending the official zoning map of the city of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission recommends approval 7-0. Private applicant, Harrisburg School District 41-2, Tim Graff.
Good evening, Albert.
Good evening, Albert Schmidt, City of Sioux Falls, Planning and Development Services. I'll be brief since you've heard it a couple times already, but this location is in the southeast corner here. Again, the applicant's Paul Korn with Sayer Associates and the owner's Harrisburg School District. It's located south of West 85th Street and west of South Cliff Avenue. It's approximately 69.81 acres, and the purpose is for the new high school location. So with that, I'll take any questions you have on the rezone.
All right, thanks, Albert. Is there anyone from the public here to speak on this item tonight? Please come on up. Good evening, sir.
Evening. I'm Robert Gaylor. I live at 609 North Daisy Avenue in Sioux Falls. My sister, Janet Kruger, lives south of the proposed school area. When my sister first told me about the proposed school and her concern about flooding because of it, I told her that it would be designed in a way to control the runoff and shouldn't have any adverse effects on her. As I looked into the drainage situation, I became more and more concerned. I see the development currently taking place upstream in the watershed area. I have tried to explain and show with pictures the drainage issue in a ditch. While Lincoln County is responsible for maintenance of the ditch, Sioux Falls is controlling the development. The school may do everything in its control right, but with drainage coming from the development to the north and the block drainage to the southeast, is that going to be enough? I know everyone wants to move forward, and we have no objections to approval of the rezoning request, but we ask that language be added requiring the deferred maintenance in the ditch be addressed.
All right, thank you, Robert. Anyone else here to speak on item 39 here tonight? All right. Counselors, do you have any questions for Albert on this item? Are you here to speak on that one, Steve? Come on up. Yeah, all right, yeah. Good evening.
Hello, good evening. Steve Van Buskirk, Van Buskirk Companies, on behalf of our clients, Ackerson Properties LLC, which is the adjoining property owner to the west over there, just still on that map up there. Can we get the preliminary subdivision plan? And actually, I noticed one point for me. So this is just zoning tonight and not the preliminary subdivision plan? Is that?
That will be the next, subdivision plan is the next item.
I didn't realize when I came here tonight, because I noticed there's one drawing up there that is outdated. That's the new preliminary subdivision plan that was being discussed there, and there's another one that flipped through here just a minute ago that only had the road coming in from the Cliff Avenue halfway across the property and going up to the north. So that's not being voted on tonight, or the preliminary plan is?
Next item.
It is the next item. Okay, should I hold my comments? I've got more, I don't have zoning comments, I've got more preliminary plan subdivision comments. Should I wait until the next?
We'll hit that next item then, you bet.
Just wait?
Yep, that'd be perfect, thanks. All right, anyone else here to speak then on the rezone here? All right.
Move approval?
Second, Jensen.
All right, motion by Selberg, seconded by Jensen to approve this item. Is there a discussion amongst council on this one? All right, hearing none, let's take a vote, please.
Council members Erickson? Yes. Jensen?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Neitzert?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Sale?
Yes.
Starr?
Yes.
All right, that passes 7-0. We'll move on to item 52, which was moved by amendment.
Item 52, deferred for the meeting of Tuesday, June 1st, 2021. A resolution of the City of Sioux Falls approving the preliminary plan of Harrisburg Schools, 3rd edition, 14165-2021. Planning Commission recommends approval 4-0. Private applicant, Sayer Associates, Paul Korn.
All right, thank you again, Albert Schmidt. So same location, preliminary subdivision plan. As you know, with the preliminary subdivision plan, typically we're looking at how does this connect with the adjacent properties around it with traffic, water, sewers. That's the main focus of this. So this location, same spot, same size. And the purpose again is for a new school. Since we first heard this, we have had amendments to it, as you heard Steve kind of point to a little bit, with the continuation of the road to the west in the preliminary subdivision plan. So that's been updated. Since then, that's been the main focal point of getting those services continued to the west. And with that in mind, all the staff's requirements and what we are looking for is met with that standard, so we're recommending approval. The applicant is here to answer any technical questions you have on that design. You have to take any questions.
All right, thank you. Anyone from the public who would like to speak on this item? Come on up. Good evening.
Okay, thank you. Steve Van Buskirk again. Now I'm in the right spot. Well, thank you for hearing us tonight. Here on behalf of Ackerson Properties LLC, as I mentioned, they're the property to the west. Just kind of want to get you up to speed a little bit. What I'm here asking for is continuation of the sanitary sewer service from this development, from the school development to Ackerson property is what I'm going to be getting to at the end of this. End of this. So originally, when we saw this plan, the Cliff Avenue, they were showing an 80-foot right-of-way, which is a major collector, hooking up to Cliff Avenue and on the north side of the school, there's going to be they were talking about getting stoplights in there. So we have a lot of interest on the adjoining property to getting access to Cliff Avenue through a major collector and a full arterial interchange on Cliff Avenue. So we saw that because you might recall on the property to the west, which is a lot of that's commercial, Highway 100 cuts through there and takes out the full access point on Minnesota Avenue for Ackerson properties at the quarter-mile location. So we're always looking for trying to improve the access to that property as best we can. So when we saw this preliminary plan come through and it stopped at the quarter mile and shot straight north, and Tomar Road is the name of the road. I think it might be on that plan. We contacted the school district and we asked them to continue on that road to the west to hook up to Ackerson properties, because what we will be able to do, and I think there's a slide that has a little bit of a further blowout that would show how we would change the preliminary subdivision. There, one back, that drawing there, where you could see at the half-mile point where how that road would be brought in and brought into the commercial road that runs parallel to Highway 100 there. I don't know if you can point to it or not, but hopefully you guys are kind of following what I'm saying. So we met with the school district, and in those discussions, they were willing to agree to show that road extending all the way from Cliff Avenue all the way over to Ackerson's property on the west side. And in conjunction with that, we also threw out the deal, or the idea, I guess, what the deal because it'll help the school out of taking, because the school is getting comments on that 66-foot right-of-way that you see. Typically, you see those at the half-mile point. We offered to the school to slide that over to the west because it's kind of 6 of one, half dozen the other for Ackerson properties if that road was on the property line adjoining the school or slid over one. So we thought that'd be a good cost-saving measure for the school district. So in the end, that sounded like a good, the school district was kind of one way or the other on that. So that road got slid over to the west as part of it to meet one of the comments from city engineering that there was a north-south street on the half-mile line. So a couple of those changes were made. So there's a note number 3 up there you can see in the upper right-hand corner. The school district owns the south 80 acres, which is shown as track 1 there, but they don't own the north 40, the 2 north 40s, the northwest one and the northeast corner. So what that note number 3 refers to is that the street, which I think, is that 95th Street? I think I saw somewhere, the east-west street. I'm going to call it 95th Street just for talking purposes. So 95th Street would not be improved, is what the intent of that note 3, until that northwest 40 acres got annexed to the city, which won't get annexed until the sewer comes, the new sanitary sewer, the big basin, not this lift station that's going to serve the school, the big basin. So that wouldn't happen for some time. So there's some uncertainty as far as the timing of that road, which we agreed with Ackerson Properties. We agreed to that timing, but our request is not to ask for that street connection from Tomar over to Ackerson Properties, because we've got road access coming from the west, and we got ability to get water. We can sewer most of that project to the north, but we realize that when that big sanitary sewer basin comes from the east side, that lift station that's going in to serve that school is going to get relieved immediately by the trunk. So that will turn into the long term, the 5 to 20 years from whenever that sanitary sewer basin is, that will serve as the access for Ackerson's properties for the sanitary sewer. So that's why we're asking to this council to approve this plan with the contingency of extending sanitary sewer to the Ackerson property to the west, which I think is, there's ordinance and tradition with extending sewer services with your development. So my
Thank you,
time
Steve.
is up. So.
All right, thank you, sir. Anyone else here to speak on this item tonight? Come on up. Good evening.
Good evening, Tim Graff, Superintendent, Harrisburg School District. Thanks for the opportunity to speak to this issue tonight and answer any questions you may have. We have looked at this piece of property and the services to it and worked with the city throughout the entire process. We don't object to extending the roadway to the west, nor do we object to putting any sewer in. It's really the timing of when that would occur. And the timing right now, we were told initially there is no sanitary gravity sewer available. And so we're putting in a force main to go to the north, to the lift station. And that's our understanding of this. And so we would just ask that we not be required at this point to put in the sanitary sewer until at which point we can work with the landowner to the north when that is actually annexed. This is an unusual situation in that the land of the north has not been annexed. We were allowed to annex originally, is what I understood with the correspondence that we've had with the city, so for a single purpose, institutional use. And as that other piece gets annexed, then we would be able to share those costs. To bear those costs alone for the district right now is quite concerning. We passed a $60 million bond issue. Much of the philosophy for many years in the district has been to not raise the mill levy. As our significant growth, we try to hold the line with the mill levy. We can do that with this project. We passed a $60 million, and then since that point, costs we continue to see raise, and our concern is that we're not going to be able to get all of our costs and expenses done with that $60 million. We do have other resources to be able to get it done, but if we're forced to go beyond and include things like this at this point, it's concerning with the cost of things, steel 30% above, and not knowing the timing of things. We really need to open this in the fall of '23, or we won't have anywhere to put the kids at that point. And so that's a little bit of the background with this. Again, we don't object to the long-range plans. It's simply what we do in the short term until we are able to have somebody to partner with in the property to the north. I'd stand by for questions.
All right, thanks, Tim. Anyone else here to speak on this one tonight? All right, let's first see if there's any questions for city staff. Councilor Neitzer first, then Councilor Kiley.
So maybe city staff could help out. There's a lot to unpack here. Obviously, based on the lines, it looks like that's kind of like we did with McGovern, a flagpole annexation.
So
right? That's what that line depicts.
it's contingent upon two areas. You can see the RA land to the west and then to the north
Touching
of
there
that
too.
side. Yep.
Okay, fair. So where is the end of sewerability, and are they doing a private lift station? What's going on here?
You're asking some deep questions here for an urban planner. But on a sewer side of it, I believe they're doing a minor lift station, which we typically don't allow on too great a side of it, like they commented on, very minimally, and especially for like small institutions, which don't typically have a lot of effluents to contribute to our system. And so we try to do this very minimally, try not to do any private lift stations as much as we can. But I believe in this side of it, they're pumping that force main up there, and then once we get our main trunk line through this, that whole thing won't be needed anymore because it'll be gravity fed instead, so that'll be able to take it out.
Yeah, there's actually a public works directive that says you can do it in certain cases, but once we get sewer there, you have to turn it off and connect our system, and I assume that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
What do you have to say about the, so they're asking to connect to this. The sewer that's going to go through in the future, is that going to be our sewer, or is this going to be, I mean, like a trunk line that's going to go through that the other neighbor would be able to connect onto, or?
I believe it'd be a public one. Now, typically in a preliminary subdivision process like this, we don't dictate the sewer side of it. We just say, are you planning on providing that sewer, that water, that road connectivity? And then during the DEP stage, the development engineering stage, that's when the staff works with them to figure out that timing, what's appropriate based on what's available for the capacity and that kind of stuff. So typically in this standard, we don't get into that at this point right now.
Well, this one's a little different because usually if you had like a regular, quote unquote, regular sewer without this lift station stuff, there's a private agreement sometimes where, hey, I need a sewer, bring it through the property, and then they figure it out between each other. And so I guess, do you have any comments on everything that you've just heard?
For us, with this, again, this side of it, we typically wouldn't look at, because any other development, we wouldn't at this stage say you have to get your sewer ability over to the edge by this point in time with the preliminary subdivision plan. It's not typical at all on that side of it, regardless of how they're getting sewerable service to the port they are developing. So if you want to ask a little bit more detailed questions on what they've had conversations with the sewer staff, with Ryan Johnson's team, I would probably reach out to the applicant's engineer who's here, and they can probably give you a way better answer than I can on that side, unfortunately.
Okay.
So hopefully it's helpful and apologize.
Thank you.
Counselor Kiley?
Thank you. Albert, in referencing note number 3 on that preliminary plan that Mr. Van Buskirk was talking about, we can approve as is because note 3 states East 90th Street between South Tomar Road and Ackerson Addition will be constructed upon development of the adjacent property north of East 90th Street. So in other words, it's not going to be constructed until that adjacent property is developed. So we can approve this as is without any amendments.
I believe so, yeah, because it sets the tone so that that road can be put in place, which preliminary subdivision
In the
plans-
future, when it's appropriate.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Other questions? Counselor Erickson, go ahead.
The engineer that, Albert, who's the engineer that you referenced is here?
Mr. Paul Korn?
Okay, I have a couple questions for you. I guess I'm just a little bit, this is uncommon for us to have these conversations. I believe a lot of times these meetings are kind of worked out as far as what takes place and whatever. And so if you can comment a little bit on some of the things that you've heard and talk about, and just let me know kind of your plan,
Okay,
expand.
sure. Well, yeah, obviously the preliminary subdivision plan, it basically represents, the ultimate build out of the subdivision for streets and water and sewer lines. So initially the school is planning to put 95th Street in to their halfway point and then Tomar Road up to 85th Street. So you see basically that L-shaped connection. So that's the infrastructure that would allow the school to operate day one, basically. The sewer, the sewer from the school, as well as the sewer within the streets, will be plumbed to that lift station, but only the school will be able to have access to that lift station because it's a private lift station by Harrisburg School District. So even if we extend sewer to the west property line at this point, they're not able to connect in because it's still a private lift station. So once gravity sewer is extended to this site, the lift station will be deactivated and all the sewer within the streets would then function properly. So as you go to the west of that intersection, the west of Tomar Road, half of that street is owned by another entity, basically. So the school right now does not have an agreement with that adjacent landowner to put sewer on the center line where it should go, or even to build out the street. So that's where it puts the school district in a little bit of a bind because now they have to go back to that adjacent landowner to work out those agreements. And that infrastructure is not needed at this time, so we feel it's appropriate to put that infrastructure in when the adjacent property is developed.
Okay, so when the adjacent property is developed and you have a private lift station on this high school area, excuse me if this is a ding-dong question here, but do they have to get rid of your private lift station? Are you required? Do you have to connect once the city is there? Do you have to connect? You can't hold it hostage. You can't say, hey, I've got my private, I don't need to connect.
No,
Go around
correct.
us?
Yeah, once that gravity trunk sewer line is there, the lift station will come out. The school district will be required to connect into the gravity sewer. All the sewer within the streets will be operational. that segment from Tomar to the west towards Ackerson, that is not in immediately, but it would go in as in that property develops, and then that adjacent developer can share in the cost of the street, the cost of the sewer, and the cost of the water.
Because right now it'd be all at the expense of the Harrisburg school.
Correct, yep.
As versus sharing, I mean, that sounds like a pretty darn good deal for the neighboring property if it's
Yeah.
all put in versus the sharing. And so a question for Stacy, our city attorney, I'm not sure we could even require that condition. Is that something that, I'm not saying I advocate for it or against it as of this point, but I'm just asking, is that something, it's a preliminary plan. We can't force that condition on there. And if we do, isn't that a substantive change that it'd have to go back to the planning commission?
At this point, to be honest with you, I'm not sure. You know, our planning attorney is not present. I wasn't aware of that question. So at this point, I can't tell you one way or another. I can check, however.
All right, are there other discussion or questions, I should say, for the staff on this one? Let's get a motion on the floor, then we can move into any discussion here.
Move to approve.
I got a
Second, Jensen.
All right, motion by Kylie, second by Jensen, approve. Item 52, discussion amongst council on this one. All right, hearing none, let's call for a vote then, please.
Council members Erickson,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
Kylie,
Yes.
Nitzert,
Yes.
Selberg,
Yes.
Sale,
Yes.
Star.
Yes.
Okay, that one passes 7-0. Move on to item 40, please.
Item 40, second reading, an ordinance of the city of Sioux Falls, South Dakota approving the naming of a facility space on public property, Innovative Han Lounge, to the third floor suite level at the Denny Sanford Premier Center, sponsors the mayor.
Jeff, good evening.
Yeah, good evening. Jeff Eckhoff, Planning and Development Services. We were approached by the Premier Center to rename the third floor level, what's currently the McNally's VIP Lounge, to rename it to the Innovative Han Lounge. We reviewed that proposal at our May 7th City Naming Committee meeting, gave it a unanimous approval. It does improve their financial position and meets the criteria. Mike Cruson, General Manager of the Premier Center, is here if you have any specific questions on the application.
All right, thanks, Jeff. Anyone from the public who would like to speak on this item here? Councilors, any questions for Jeff or for Mike on this one?
Move approval?
Second, Jensen.
All right, motion by Selberg, seconded by Jensen to approve item 40. Any discussion here, council? All right, hearing none, let's take a vote, please.
Council members Erickson,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
Kylie,
Yes.
Nitzert,
Yes.
Selberg,
Yes.
Sale,
Yes.
Star.
Yes.
That one passes 7-0. Item 41.
Item 41, second reading, an ordinance of the city of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, implementing a temporary ordinance regarding the issuance of local medical cannabis establishment permits and/or licenses. Sponsors the mayor.
All right, City Attorney Stacy Koischer is going to speak to this one.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this is the ordinance that would provide the city with clarity on the city status related to the existence of medical cannabis establishments within the community during the interim period of time that exists for the State Department of Health to develop its regulations. Such period, which was created by the new statutory scheme, namely SDCL 34-20G. This ordinance has been discussed at the working session we had, as well as first reading last week. So.
All right, thank you, sir. Anyone from the public here to speak on this topic tonight? All right, come on up. Good evening.
Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Sarah Koob. I live here in Sioux Falls, and I honestly would ask you guys not to vote on it, just to let it be and let the first come along and see what happens. And the only reason why I'm saying that is because it's appearing more and more like we're not going to get any decisions from the Supreme Court until very close to the first, or maybe even after it, and then that'll knock everything that we've decided to codify on its head. So I'm worried about the fact that, you know, we're, 2 weeks away from the first? And it doesn't seem like my state is taking it seriously at all. So I appreciate that you guys are taking it seriously, and I appreciate that you're attempting to organize a pretty tall feat but I am asking as a medicinal patient and somebody who is hoping to maybe eke myself a job out of this, that we proceed with caution. And if you guys aren't sure that you guys want to set up the bones for it, or you can't set up the bones for whatever reason, then just leave it be and let the state catch up to the cities that are moving forward on getting their people working and getting the medicine to the sickest here in South Dakota. Okay, thank you guys for your time.
All right, thanks, Sarah. Anyone else here to speak on this topic this evening? All right, counselors, let's get a motion on the floor and we can move into any discussion on it.
Move to approve, Nitzert.
Second, Jensen.
All right, motion by Nitzert, seconded by Jensen to approve item 41. Discussion on this item. Counselor Erickson?
I just want to just send a quick thank you for Greg for being open. He has reached out via text, email, phone calls, and been readily available to take any input from any of us. And so I haven't needed to reach out to Stacy or anyone else, and I've gone just to Greg oftentimes, Counselor Nitzert, sorry. And so thank you for collecting all the information. I know we're in unprecedented times, and this really is, you know, paving the way for how we handle this in the future, and it's not easy. So thanks for your work on this and all that are involved, and hoping that we can do this the right way. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Counselor. Other discussion on the motion to approve item 41? All right, hearing none, let's take a vote on it, please.
Council members Erickson? Yes. Jensen?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Nitzert?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Sale?
Yes.
Star?
No.
All right, that item passes 6-1. Item 42, please.
Item 42, second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the Code of Ordinances of the city by amending Chapter 30, City Council to establish the Regulatory Oversight Committee and reorganize the existing standing committees of the City Council. Sponsors, Council members Erickson and Sale.
Counselor Erickson, go ahead.
I'll just be brief. I gave a pretty lengthy overview last week as far as the intent of this. So just for real quick, this removes the Land Use Committee, renames the Public Service to City Service Committee, and creates a Regulatory Oversight Committee, which has oftentimes been referred to as ROC. The intent is for this committee to kind of dive in and look at those regulations and as a policymaking board and make those recommendations to the full council. It is not required that every single ordinance or change has to come through this, just like not everything has to go through an informational. I just want to make sure I put that on the record so it's not criticized if something does come through or not come through. But this is a way for us to kind of work simultaneously with the administration and come up with some good policy, whether it's an increase or a decrease in making sure that things make sense. So I'd ask for your support on this. Leadership will be appointing for this committee. Happy to answer any questions that you might have.
All right, thank you, Counselor. Anyone from the public who wishes to speak on this one tonight? All right, counselors, well, let's get a motion and we can move to any question you may
Move
have.
to approve, Erickson.
Second, Sale.
All right, motion by Erickson, seconded by Sale to approve item 42. Now, any questions or discussion amongst the dais here? All right, not hearing any, so we'll take a vote, please.
Council members Erickson?
Yes.
Jensen?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Nitzert?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Sale?
Yes.
Star?
All right, this item passes 7-0. We'll move to item 43, please.
Item 43, first reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property located northeast of East Bull Pine Trail and South 6 Mile Road from the CN Conservation and RA3 Apartment Residential High Density Districts to the RD2 Townhome Residential Suburban District number 14365-2021 and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission recommends approval 7-0. Recommendation set a date of second reading for Tuesday, July 6, 2021. Private applicant Assam F&K Family LLC, Sam Assam.
Albert?
All right, so this is the first reading, looking to set for second reading locations north of East 22nd or 26th Street and east of 6 Mile Road over on the east side of town. The size is 1.56 acres. The property currently has a building finalizing construction right now of townhomes, and the purpose is to make it so that those townhomes can now place property lines between each unit and sell them individually. I'll take any questions you may have.
Thanks, Albert. Anyone from the public who would like to speak to this item? Counselors, do you have any questions for Albert on this one?
Move approval?
Second sale.
Motion by Selberg, seconded by Sale to set a date of second reading for Tuesday, July 6 for this item. Any discussion on that, council? All right, hearing none, let's take a vote, please.
Council members Erickson? Jensen?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Nitzert?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Sale?
Yes.
Star.
Yes.
That item passes 7-0. Item 44.
Item 44, first reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property located at 1201 North Marion Road from the C2 Commercial Neighborhood and Streetcar District to the RD2 Townhome Residential Suburban District, number 14368-2021, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission recommends approval 7-0. Recommendation, set a date of second reading for Tuesday, July 6, 2021. Private applicant, Aspen Heights LLC, Clint Ackerman.
This location is located north of West Madison Street and west of North Marion Road. Size is approximately 5.5 acres, and the purpose is to construct townhomes similar to the ones just to the west there. And I can take any questions you have on this rezoning request.
Thank you, Albert. Anyone from the public here to speak on this one tonight? Councilors, any questions for Albert on this? I'd look for a motion, set a date of second reading for Tuesday, July 6th.
So moved, Jensen.
Second, Kylie?
All right, motion by Jensen and seconded by Kylie. Any discussion on that motion? All right, let's take a vote, please.
Council members Erickson?
Yes.
Jensen?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Nitzert?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Sale?
Yes.
Star.
Yes.
That passes 7-0. Item 45.
Item 45, first reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property located southwest of East 26th Street and South Veterans Parkway from the CN Conservation RS Single Family Residential Suburban, RD1 Twin Home Duplex Residential Suburban, RD2 Townhome Residential Suburban, O Office LW Live Work, RA2 Apartment Residential Moderate Density, RA3 Apartment Residential High Density, C2 Commercial Neighborhood and Streetcar, and C3 Commercial Community Districts to the RD1 Twin Home Duplex Residential Suburban, RD2 Townhome Residential Suburban, RA2 Apartment Residential Moderate Density, and C2 Commercial Neighborhood and Streetcar Districts, number 14340-2021, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission recommends approval 7-0. Recommendation, set a date of second reading for Tuesday, July 6, 2021. Private applicant, G&D Har Construction LLC, Gary Har.
This location is located in the southwest corner of East 26th Street and South Veterans Parkway. The size total is about 38.1 acres, and the purpose here, when you can see kind of our comparison, is it was preliminarily zoned when they first came through the plan. They've gotten a wetlands delineation to remove all the wetlands, and so now they're coming back to fill those areas in and revise it and provide some additional buffering to the existing residential to the south on the southeast corner. So staff's looking at that, recommending approval, and looking to set second reading.
All right, thank you, Albert. Anyone from the public wish to speak on this one tonight? Councilors, you got any questions for Albert here? Look for a motion, then, to set a date of second reading for Tuesday, July 6th.
Move to approve.
Second, Jensen.
All right, motion by Kylie, seconded by Jensen to approve that item and set a second reading. Any discussion there? All right, hearing none, let's take a vote, please.
Council members Erickson?
Yes.
Jensen?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Nitzert?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Sale?
Yes.
Star.
Yes.
That item passes 7-0. Item 46.
Item 46, first reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property located at 8300 and 8400 West 48th Street from the AG Agricultural District to the RD1 Twin Home Duplex Residential Suburban District, number 14369-2021, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission recommends approval 7-0. Recommendation, set a date of second reading for Tuesday, July 6, 2021. Private applicant, Sundance Group Incorporated, Jeff Shatsky.
All right, this location here is over on the west side of town, north of West 48th Street and east of South Ellis Road. It's approximately 4.45 acres in size between the two parcels, and the purpose here is to actually add new subdivision, which you'll hear the preliminary subdivision plan in the next reading. But it's of the 4.45 acres, they're looking to subdivide that into 16 twin home lots. They did hold a neighborhood meeting on site to try to get public comments, questions, concerns. Staff was on site there, and we relayed drainage concerns that were brought to our attention at that meeting to engineering staff to try to take care of issues ahead of time. I'll take any questions you may have, but recommending second reading.
Thanks, Albert. Anyone from the public who would like to speak to this item here? Council, any questions tonight on this one? Look for a motion to set a date of second reading for Tuesday, July 6th.
So moved, Erickson.
Second, Kylie?
Motion by Erickson, seconded by Kylie on that. Any discussion there? All right, hearing none, let's take a vote, please.
Council members Erickson.
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
Kylie.
Yes.
Neitzert.
Yes.
Selberg.
Yes.
Sale.
Yes.
Star.
Yes.
That passes 7-0. Item 47.
Item 47, first reading an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the Code of Ordinances of the city by amending the fees section of Chapter 150, Buildings, Subchapter Mechanical and Fuel Gas Code. Recommendation, set a date of second reading for Tuesday, July 6, 2021. Sponsors the mayor.
Good evening, Butch.
Good evening, Butch Warrington, Chief Building Official. This, we're bringing it to you, it's really about all efficiencies. This is the plumbing, or excuse me, the mechanical and fuel gas right now. The inspectors at this time have to count every furnace, air conditioner, duct system. What we're going to do is base it off the cost of the project. This is going to be similar to what we have for the building, and we haven't revised those fees in like 38 years. So we're thinking this is a good thing. So it's about efficiencies, and we won't, excuse me, we figure we're going to save about 1.5 FTEs this way. And part of this is because right now they count the fixtures. We have to invoice, we have to send out the invoice, bill, and then we receive the bill. Now they're going to know the cost of the project. They're going to have to pay that fee up front, and then they can get their inspections. So it's going to be a lot more efficient than what we have now. And this goes right along with our InterGov and CSS system. We've got that system, and let's use it to the best of our ability. This wasn't thought about lightly. We talked about it, how we could do this. And last summer, the USD Beacon School of Business was looking for a project. So a couple of graduate students took this project on and submitted stuff back to me. They did a very good job, but it wasn't quite what we wanted. They did go by Bismarck, Cedar Rapids, and Minnetonka as guidelines. It was close, but it really wasn't what we wanted. So we tweaked everything. Their prices were a little too high for us. We tried to keep them real similar to what they are right now. And we especially focused on the low end, which is the affordable housing end of it. So that was where we went with that. Once we decided what that fee schedule was, we met with the Home Builders Association, to their building codes committee. And after that, they took it to their board of directors. I met with the Mechanical, Electrical, and Plumbing Board of Appeals, and then we had one more meeting, and that was with commercial contractors and developers, which included Lloyd Construction, Gilhaugen Construction, Signature, Empire Building Services, and Jared Smart Construction. The key theme when we met with all of these was simplicity. They liked how simple it was. So with that, all groups gave us a thumbs up and gave their recommendation of approval to the City Council.
All right. Thank you, Butch. Anyone from the public would like to speak on item 47 here? All right, Council, do you have any questions for Butch on this one? All right, then look for a motion to set a date of second reading on this for Tuesday, July 6th. Move approval.
Second, Kylie.
All right, motion by, who made that first? Marshall? All right, motion by Selberg, seconded by Kylie on this item. Any discussion on that, Council? All right, hearing none, let's take a vote, please.
Council members Erickson.
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
Kylie.
Yes.
Neitzert.
Yes.
Selberg.
Yes.
Sale.
Yes.
Star.
Yes.
That passes 7-0. Item 48.
Item 48, first reading an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the Code of Ordinances of the city by amending the fees section of Chapter 150, Buildings, Subchapter Plumbing. Recommendation, set a date of second reading for Tuesday, July 6, 2021. Sponsors the mayor.
This is the second part of 3, only this is on the plumbing. So now, instead of my inspectors counting toilets, they get to do it through the valuation of the permit. So rather than say everything all over again, I think you heard it once.
All right, thank you, Butch. Anyone from the public here to speak on this one? Councilors, any questions here? All right, look for a motion then to set a date of second reading for Tuesday, July 6th.
So moved, Jensen.
Second,
Second,
Kylie.
Sale.
All right, motion by Jensen, seconded by Counselor Sale on that. I'll give it to you, sir. Any discussion there, council? All right, hearing none, let's take a vote, please.
Council members Erickson? Jensen?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Nitzert?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Sale?
Yes.
Star?
Yes.
That passes 7-0. Item 48. Or excuse me, 49.
Item 49, first reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the Code of Ordinances of the city by amending the fee section of Chapter 150, Building, Subchapter Electricity. Recommendation, set a date of second reading for Tuesday, July 6, 2021. Sponsors the mayor.
This is the third one. This is the electrical. So instead of counting circuit breakers, they get to do it by the valuation of the project.
All right, thank you, Butch. Anyone from the public want to speak on that one? All right, any questions on this one, council? I
Move
look for a
approval.
motion to set a date of second reading for Tuesday, July 6th. Motion by Counselor Selberg on that. Do we have a second?
Second, Sale.
Second by Counselor Sale. Any discussion there, council? All right, hearing none, let's take a vote on that, please.
Council members Erickson?
Yes.
Jensen?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Nitzert?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Sale?
Yes.
Star?
Yes.
That one passes 7-0 as well. On to item 50.
Item 50, first reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the Code of Ordinances of the city by amending Chapter 156 Floodplain Management. Recommendation, set a date of second reading for Tuesday, July 6, 2021. Sponsors the mayor.
Good evening.
Evening again. All right. So on this one, first reading, we've seen this a little bit before, so I'm going to go fairly quickly, but I'm here for any questions you may have. So we didn't take this approach lightly either. We've been working on this for a while. This list in front of you here indicates the reach outs, the meetings that we did to try to facilitate discussion on this look at the floodplain ordinance. And this, from a staff perspective, was started in 2019 from our original side. So we've been working on this for almost 2 years now, trying to get it the best that we can, be protective of our future residents and citizens, and watch out for property owners while still not trying to impose unnecessary regulations in areas where we don't need to have them. So when we went through this first time, went through the planning commission, got recommendation for approval, that was our initial ordinance. We heard some main comments in that side of it, and we did some revisions. So we tried to hear the concerns we had out there, see if there's a reasonable way to address those and still come out better than we were before. So one of the things that we heard was substantial improvement. It's a big concern for us. The main thing we heard there is we were looking at going from the FEMA minimum standard of tracking over a 12-month period to doing a 10-year period, which we felt was a good starting point for us to have that discussion. It led to some really good discussion, so I'm happy we did that. After talking with the developers especially, we kind of talked back and forth and figured out that between us, a 3-year period was probably more apt for a starting point to look at that. And when we did our review on the city of Sioux Falls, all the building permits going through there, we looked at a 40-year period and took a look to see how many properties over a 40-year period would have been affected by this change. And so between 1979 and 2019, if we had a 45% like we're proposing over a 40-year period, we would have only affected 19% of the properties, which was about 78 houses or properties. So in the scope of Sioux Falls, pretty small amount, but again, now we're going to 3 years. So you're pretty much at 0 properties would have been affected over those last 3 years in that side of things. And then the other side of it that we were originally proposing was to have, be a leader in South Dakota and have a 3-foot freeboard in that side of it. We had a lot of concerns, and we felt like, we just want to try to make sure we're listening to people and address it properly and take a look at it. And so we changed that to keep it at 2 feet, which we currently have, which is a great standard, instead of raising it to 3 feet. So hopefully people can still build to 3 feet, though. They don't have to build to our minimum, but it's our minimum standard. The other thing that this ordinance really does for us is helps us to utilize the latest and greatest information when we're looking at maps. And so this picture's slightly outdated, but it gets you a good point as far as why we need the latest and greatest. The FEMA maps move slowly, wind change, and so we have newer information we've been working with FEMA for the past 4 years on, and so we know where the new floodplains approximately are going to come into play. And so with adopting this and bringing it, allowing us to use the newest information, we can help developers work around these areas, work through these areas, instead of working over these areas, and then the property owners that build houses there and own houses get to deal with the FEMA regulations later on when they unexpectedly become in the floodplain because the map changes are too slow. We had that happen in the southwest at Sioux Falls. It cost the city a lot of time and a lot of money. We want to try to avoid that in the future. The other side that we hear a lot is capacity of floodwaters. You heard that especially in 2019. And we thought it was definitely a good opportunity to take a serious look at some of the issues out there in floodplain and what we can control. And so one of the things that we're recommending in this as a major change is the compensatory storage. So I've tried to simplify it here a little bit for you, but basically, if you want to put fill in the floodplain, 100 cubic feet, we want to make sure in that same general area, that same basin, that you're going to provide excavation for 100 cubic feet as well, so that it balances out, and that during a flood event, that water has a place to go where it normally would have had a place to go instead of finding a new place to go. So when we look at substantial improvement, just digging that little bit more, the previous level is 50%. That's the FEMA minimum standard. We're looking at going to 45%. It's a minor tweak, really affects minor amount of properties as far as we see it. And it gets us benefit as far as having more stringent requirements. And it helps us get those ones that are trying to get just under the FEMA minimum standard, but by only telling us what the value is and us not catching that, so it helps us out, be more conservative at that approach. And then again, the current time period is each event only the 12-year for damage and a 12-month period for improvement. And now we're, for both those, would do a 3-year running total. We thought it was fair, though, to not penalize people for damages in the past that they didn't know we were going to have this regulation in place. So in this ordinance, although you can't read it because it's black, I apologize, we're looking at starting that December 31st, 2022. So basically, 2023 would be the starting point of that 3-year period. So any work you did this year or next year wouldn't count in that 3-year period. That way it gives people who have invested in property or looking to invest in property the time that they probably need to make those improvements and then account for this regulation in place. So we felt like that was a good starting point to make sure that we didn't just drop this requirement on somebody unbeknownst to them, and all of a sudden, just because they had flood damage in 2019, now they're in a tough place. Then the last thing I'll talk to you real quick about is we wanted to make sure that our critical facilities remain safe. So we wanted to elevate the restrictions that we have on those facilities for new ones going in or major remodels, replacements going in, to getting them above the 500-year or the 0.5% chance or 0.2% chance, elevation of floodplain. So what are we talking about there? Schools, hospitals, fire stations, things like that. Areas where we don't want our workers or residents or people attending those facilities to need assistance during a flood. We want them to either be able to be a location that's safe for flooding, and they can either respond to the people who do need, or they can be a resource for people who are in need. So that's kind of the main purpose behind that side of things. And then just to kind of run down, this is the list of kind of the overall improvements on there. I won't go through it with you, but I can definitely go in detail if you want. But with that, we have next steps of second reading, hopefully for July 6th. And then if adopted there, it would become effective July 30th. I'll take any questions you may have.
Okay, thanks, Albert. Anyone from the public who would like to speak on this item tonight? All right, counselors, do you have any questions for Albert on this item? Counselor Erickson, go ahead.
Not maybe, well, yeah, I do have some questions, but if you could flip back a couple to where it's, oh, one more, go forward, and one more. There. So I'll get to this slide in 1 second. Thank you for your work on this. I know it's been a long time coming. I know we kind of got somewhere and then we pulled the rug and said, whoa, wait a minute, Albert, we're not comfortable after we talked with a handful of folks just with those requirements. So thanks for the compromise and hearing us out for that. I appreciate that's compromise, and you know, you didn't have to do that, but we appreciate you doing that. So with those revisions, explain to me a little bit of why do this before FEMA?
So the main, in my vision of this and the use of floodplain administration, is we want to be ahead of creating issues for them so that, again, that future buyer that doesn't know what's going on, doesn't have any idea, doesn't get hit with something they didn't expect. Because once you get floodplain designation, you have a requirement to buy flood insurance. Typically, that's going to be a little harder to have a resale. Then we have other standards in there for restrictions too. So just trying to protect those future owners with something that we generally can predict, because we generally at this point know where that's going to be. So we have that tool in our belt to help protect them. We want to have that.
So will the maps, and maybe you mentioned this, will the maps be, should everything pass as your timeline, will those maps then be in place as a, hey, FYI, this is what's going to be in the floodplain, or are those new building codes and requirements going to go in place? The last thing I want to do is make it any more difficult for more housing to our market.
Sure. So with this, if we adopt it as it's written right now, the newest information from FEMA, we will start regulating to on a local level. And so it'll basically be for us the same as if it was a FEMA floodplain. So we'll restrict building as far as if you are going to build there, you just got to do this because we know in a few years the flood insurance rate is going to be extremely high if you don't build like this in this area.
Yeah.
And so those affordable housing especially will be completely hit harder and harder when their insurance rates go up and their mortgage doubles because they're in floodplain. So for this, we see it as a very big improvement as far as watching out for even every level of homeowner, but the floodplain maps that we're adopting will be what we anticipate at the best information we have available, which is pretty good because we've worked with FEMA for 4 years on that. So we're fairly certain on the finalization of where these areas are at, and we're just waiting for that public approval process then for the next 2 years.
So are we messing with due process then, because we haven't gone through the formal public process part? I mean, because if we approve it before them, but it hasn't gone through due process, are we causing problems?
Sure. I don't think so. When we talked to FEMA about this, we get a lot of very little communities are doing this. We really love what you're doing here. You're being very forward thinking, very progressive, trying to watch out for these property owners. We applaud it. We would wish more people would do it because most people just kick it down the road and we're like, well, we'll deal with it when we absolutely have to.
Right.
We've done that in the past and it's a pain. So with this going forward wise, us adopting this, it definitely doesn't hurt anything going on with FEMA. They recommend it if you can as a gold standard, but most places just don't choose to proactively
They might not have the
deal with that.
resources or the energy or employees to do it too. And I get it. I own 2 properties on a floodplain, and when we had all that weather, everyone flooded but mine, because we had to build to FEMA standards and the city standards. Everything is up high and concrete, and it was super expensive to do, but it works. I mean, it really did work. That you know, we were lucky. We were really lucky, and so I get the reason behind it. I would never build on a floodplain ever again, just because it's a headache, and my flood insurance is expensive. But I get what you're doing. I appreciate that. Thanks for the changes with that. The one last thing, if you could touch a little bit on how this impacts any of the schools, the hospitals, the fire stations. What does it mean for any of them where the additions will be added in?
Sure. So when we looked at this, and you can kind of see a little breakdown in the small text there, we do have facilities currently in the 500-year flood event. And the main reason there is because when we have our levee system, it's not built for the 500-year event, it's built for the 100-year event. So you still get that floodplain that overflows in those areas. So a vast majority of this stuff is in those locations, kind of in the center part of Sioux Falls, where we had a huge issue a few years ago when the levees were invalidated and brought in.
Right.
So with that in mind, what this does for us on existing ones is, with an existing one, we really don't have a ton of issues with them unless they're going to completely rebuild that. Then we need to evaluate the site, see if it's the best possible site. And if there's no feasible alternative, there's language in the ordinance to help work through the process of still building on that location. But ideally for us, if you have a site, you build above the 500-year and your access to it is on the 500-year, so that during a flood event, you're going to get in and out easily. Your facility won't be inundated. And then again, if you can't physically do all that, then we look at other opportunities to make that facility, that location work as best as it possibly can.
Okay. Thanks for answering my questions.
Absolutely.
Thanks to everyone for your patience. It's kind of been an issue that we've been entrenched in a little bit, so thank you.
All right, thanks, Counselor. Other questions for Albert from the council? Counselor Neitzer, go ahead.
Would Lincoln High School be the one school implicated in this 100-year, or is it somewhere else?
Part of that would be in, but the main one for the 100-year is, Lincoln High School is the 100-year, and then for the 500-year, like the All-City Elementary School off of Kiwanis Avenue is the other one up there. But yeah, Lincoln High School is partially, but they do have wet floodproofing in place now with our work over the last few years to really help shore that facility up, and sure enough, in 2019, they put it to use.
Okay, just to remind us again, so let's just take a empty parcel of land that isn't in the flood hazard area, but it's on your map that it's going to be. If you do nothing and they build, what elevation do they have to build to?
So
If this didn't pass, what do they have to do?
if this doesn't pass, so for instance, on our maps here, any of those areas that are shown on the newest data in blue that aren't shown in only the firm, currently I have 0 standard for, so I have no elevations to set for them. And so it'll be reminiscent of what happened in Southwest Sioux Falls a few years ago.
Okay, so if you're not in the special flood hazard area, you don't have any required elevation
Unless you're,
except for,
the only caveat is if you're in our buffer area, which is 100 feet out from the floodplain. But yeah, other than that, there's currently no standard at all. So you build your house in there, and if these maps don't get changed, which they won't, between now and when they get adopted, FEMA's gonna adopt them, and then we're gonna be required to adopt them to stay in the flood program, and then all of a sudden, they're gonna get hit hard, their insurance is gonna go up, they're gonna get kind of flagged every time they try to sell their house or refinance it,
Yeah.
and it's gonna be a nightmare,
okay,
potentially.
so they could have a house built, let's say, a foot below base flood elevation, the map gets adopted a few years later, now they have to get flood insurance, and it's really high because they're not even at BFE or BLE or whatever.
Yeah,
And then, but if this were in place, they would have to,
So if this is in place now and they wanted to build in that same lot location, then if they want to put the house there, we'd make them elevate that house up 2 feet minimum above the base flood elevation, so that then when the maps became effective and their insurance rates started being reflected accordingly, they'd have a house that was elevated above. So for instance, just so you know, a current $200,000 building with $80,000 in coverage insurance cost from FEMA, you're looking at, if you build at BFE, so even if they just happen to get right at BFE, your single story annual cost will be $2,552. And then if we require them to go 2 feet above, that goes from $2,552 down to $857 a year. So it's a significant savings, in which case, you know, over just a few years, you're likely to get that cost back that it took you to elevate that up.
yeah, there's definitely a benefit. My last question is, how many existing property owners, that may have a fully developed house would be implicated by this, where they were going to maybe do an addition and now they're not going to be able to because it's not going to be practical?
Sure. So most of the changes that we're having there for the existing ones, you're not likely to see a ton of those ones in there. Luckily for us, the newer information is in the growth areas that we're seeing right now. So it's imperative that we get it in now. But at the same time, we've seen minimal number of houses overall get built so far in these areas. And we've been lucky enough as a community that when you look at the number of new houses that we've been seeing over the past few years, which is significant. I mean, we're looking at 3,200 over the past 4 years of new single-family homes. 0 of those houses were actually built in the floodplain. Now, again, we do have specific standards that we're a little more stringent, so we have floodplain development permits for them because we're trying to watch out for them, but the building itself was located outside the floodplain. And so with this change, I'm not anticipating any significant number of the existing structures really being impacted dramatically on that side. Plus, if it is in the BLE information area right now and it got built on, with this adoption, we can also anticipate where that house is going to be impacted in the future, work with them on trying to make the appropriate contacts with FEMA and through that process to help it so that they're minimally affected when those maps do come in or they know a path forward.
Okay, one more.
Go ahead.
Okay, really, this is my last question. For the people that are affected, are they on notice in some way that they're looking to have their property, for lack of a better term, I guess maybe impaired, more restricted?
Yeah, so in November of 2020, we posted out about 1,300 property owner postcards. And we received, I want to say, 8 questions back.
Okay.
And most were just concerned if their property was going to be in. Most of the time, what's going on here is drainage channels are being brought in, so it's a portion of the rear yard. And so most of them weren't significantly worried or impacted.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just have a follow-up to that.
Counselor Erickson, go ahead.
So, sorry, I don't mean to do that. Avera and Lincoln and All City, I'm assuming, are the major structures for the school and the hospital. Have you, other than sending a postcard, that's a really big deal for those people.
Sure.
and those developments. That really changes. I mean, you're talking Lincoln High School. So if they have to make some changes, have you physically reached out and talked to them and said, hey, did you know? Because let's be honest, I got your postcard because I have 2 properties in there. And I was like, yeah, whatever, okay. Because I don't have questions and I already knew, but I did get the postcard and the letter in the mail. But I'm wondering, is it worth it to reach out to the big investments? Because that can really change
Sure.
what it looks like.
So back in February of this year, we sent direct emails out to the persons or parties that would generally make those kinds of decisions for all school districts that were involved, Excel Energy, the hospitals, and those kind of things. So we did get feedback back from them.
Okay.
Mainly the industrial side of things gave us the most amount of feedback, but school districts we definitely reached out to, and they didn't have too many concerns. We've been harassing the school district for a while on floodplains, so they're probably pretty sick of us on that. But
And that's okay. I just wanted to make sure that there is more than just a, hey, you got a postcard in the mail, because
yeah, no, very fair. Yes, ma'am.
everyone really reads those closely. Okay, thank you.
Other
I'm done.
questions for Albert, council? All right, not hearing any. Let's look to get a motion, and that would be to set a date of second reading for Tuesday, July 6th.
So
Make
moved.
that motion, Sale.
Nope. Second, Nights.
All right, motion by Sale, seconded by Nitzert. Any discussion on that? All right, hearing none, let's take a vote, please.
Council members Erickson,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
Kylie,
Yes.
Nitzert,
Yes.
Selberg.
Yes.
Sale,
Yes.
Star.
That passes 7-0. Item 51.
Item 51, first reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, establishing the tax increment revenues to be collected and authorizing the payment of tax increment revenues to C.R. Lloyd Associates Incorporated in accordance with the development agreement for tax incremental district number 24, City of Sioux Falls. Recommendation, set a date of second reading for Tuesday, July 6, 2021. Private applicant, C.R. Lloyd Associates Incorporated.
Good evening, Dustin.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, Dustin Powers, Planning and Development Services. If you recall from February of 2020, we were here in front of you with C.R. Lloyd Associates for Tax Increment District number 22 to the City of Sioux Falls to support the redevelopment of the former Sioux Steel site downtown. That TIF was approved for $21,508,407 plus the cost of financing to construct a 900-plus stall parking garage to support the density of the proposed development. As we know, we entered into the COVID-19 pandemic and the project was delayed. Since that time, we've received a request from C.R. Lloyd Associates to restart the timeline for the tax increment district. In order to do so, we must actually dissolve the current TIF 22 district and recreate a new district, which would be TIF District number 24 to the City of Sioux Falls. All of the conditions of the TIF, all of the actual dollar amount of the request and the actual project all remain the same. So a lot of this information will be familiar to you. And if you recall, we were here in May, on May 11th, with informational and presented a lot of this. So I will run through some of this fairly quickly. As you can see from the site, again, this is between Falls Park West, the Levitt at the Falls, and the Big Sioux River. And the total project cost for this development will be over $200 million of private investment. When you look at the site, this would be a view from the north of the site, so at the falls looking towards the south. What you can see on the right-hand side is a hotel and convention center. The hotel is Convention Center is a $75 million project. The hotel itself will be 7 levels, approximately 215 rooms, and the convention's meeting space will total approximately 60,000 square feet. On the left-hand side of the screen, you can see a 9-story office tower. That'll be roughly about $55 million, have 175,000 square feet of space that'll also include some first level restaurants and retail space. On the next slide here, again on the left hand side, you can just see another view of this would be from the Levitt lawn looking to the east. So you can see the hotel on the left hand side with the office tower in the background. On the right hand side, you can see a wrap building that will wrap around the parking ramp. So the parking ramp is actually in the center of that building. That ramp will again total about $28 million. It'll be 8 stories tall and have again 900 915 to 930 parking spaces. The wrap itself is 6 levels, so will total about $36 million worth of development. Will include about 30,000 square feet of retail space on the main level, include about 90 apartments as well as 25 condos within that. And again, that will surround the parking garage. This view here would be if you were standing on our future phase 3 of the River Greenway, so looking from basically the Big Sioux River to the west. On the left-hand side, you can see the 9-story office tower. On the right-hand side, you can see a portion of the convention space, and the hotel is in the background there. What this is really showing is an activated alley that really illustrates the walkability of the proposed development, and really you need that with the density that's being proposed for this development. As shown on the site layouts as well as the renderings, this connectivity is provided throughout the sites and will also provide great connection from Falls Park West to the future phase 3 of the River Greenway, as well as the Levitt's events that'll be in the area. So for council's consideration, what you'll see is a TIF 24 district boundary, a TIF 24 project plan, a TIF 24 development agreement, which is what we're here for on first reading tonight, and then a TIF 22 dissolution of the district. So all of these items will be brought forward to you on July 6th. But with the development agreement, we do have 2 readings because it is approved by ordinance. So we're just here tonight for the first reading of that. But all of these items will be brought forward to you on July 6th. So just kind of to go over a few of the TIF areas and the actual TIF itself. So again, the district boundaries will be the exact same as before. The current property taxes collected from the property within the boundaries is roughly $57,000. The TIF request remains the same at $21,508,407 plus the cost of the financing. And again, that will go to the site preparations for the parking structure and then the parking structure itself. And then the estimated annual property taxes, once this is completed, will be roughly $1.6 million in that first year after completion. But we do anticipate that to go up significantly over the life of the TIF. When we look at TIF districts and creating TIF districts, the council has to consider whether or not, and make a finding of whether or not at least 25% of the site is blighted, or at least 50% of the site will stimulate and develop the general economic welfare and prosperity of the state. Based on this, the improvements that are being projected and planned for, we know that this is going to increase the value of the entire district significantly, which ultimately meets the requirement set forth by statute. We're also required to look at the TIF project plan. So there's on the next couple of slides, what we are required to look at within a project plan are all of the improvements that are associated within the district, the economic feasibility of the district and the ability to pay off the TIF, a detailed list of all the project costs, a fiscal impact statement of how this impacts all the taxing entities before as well as after the TIF is concluded, how this project will be financed. So this would be a developer-funded TIF in which they will take on all of the risks associated with the development. We also have to show things such as the existing land use conditions, future land uses, any proposed changes, and whether it's consistent with the comprehensive plan. This is within our downtown PUD, and all of the land uses and buildings being proposed do fit within our district that we have there. So no changes are being requested as a result of that. Within the project plan, we also highlight the TIF eligible expenses. So this is something that we look at for any TIF that we do. We identify what the TIF eligible expenses are. As you can see, there's a total of over $48 million worth of TIF eligible expenses associated with this project. And again, the TIF request is the $21,508,407 plus the financing cost. And again, those TIF dollars will go to support the construction of the parking structure. So we also look at that fiscal impact. So this is kind of looking at a little bit of a midterm. So if the project happens as according to schedule, looking out at about year 2025, we can see that there'll be a tax payment of $1.7 million Ultimately, that's how it would be split out between those taxing entities. Now, again, those dollars would be funneled through the TIF to support the TIF improvements. But again, we have to highlight this fiscal impact. Ultimately, when we look out after the TIF is going to conclude, we do project that this payment will be actually over $2 million. And so you can see that that'll be a significant impact to all of those taxing entities moving forward. We also talk about our TIF evaluation. So what are some of the things we look at when any TIF project comes forward? We first look at whether there's a financial gap necessitating the TIF. So what is the need for the TIF and why is it needed? Ultimately, we know when providing this type of density, you need parking, and the way to do that is to build it through structures. Parking structures, are a critical infrastructure for any density in downtown, and we have supported those types of structures through TIF in the past. So again, the primary uses of the funding would be for the parking structure and the site improvements related to it. We also look at what the benefits are related to the downtown area or the area in which the project is, and this one is being located downtown. So it is additional public parking for the area. So one of the conditions within the development agreement is that this parking ramp will need to be made available to the public. So it will be consistent with what our public parking system and how it operates today. So they will be able to lease those spaces that they have within their ramp to the hotel, the office, and residents that are associated with their development. But any overflow parking that they would have would be available to the public during the day. And then on nights and weekends, as long as our parking system on nights and weekends is free, they will follow or mimic whatever our system says. So currently our system says that nights and weekends are free. They would be required to provide nights and weekends free to the public as well. And so again, making that consistent, we also have in there that they would place some signage on the property to be able to direct people to the public parking that's being provided. We also look at how it activates the area. Will it stimulate the economic development? And then again, this is in coordination with phase 3 of our River Greenway. And as we have in the past, we've leveraged our public investments along the river to then leverage more private dollars and private investments. And so we believe that this is a great way to really synchronize those developments and provide kind of a seamless transition between our public improvements and the private investments that are being made. So historically in Sioux Falls, when we look at TIF, we really have categorized it in 3 areas. We use it to encourage redevelopment of deteriorated or otherwise blighted areas. We use it to stimulate economic development or economic vitality for the long term in Sioux Falls, or we use it to stimulate private investment in areas where it would otherwise not happen, or it would happen, but just not to the scale that it's happening. So again, we believe that it meets these criteria and is consistent with how we've used TIF in the past. And again, the TIF development agreement, so that you'll see and is on your docket here tonight for first reading, is a developer-funded TIF. It would limit the TIF amount to the $21,508,407 plus the cost of financing. And then the requirements on the developer is they actually have to complete the improvements. So they have to complete the ramp and the improvements that have been provided. The parking has to be available to the public as detailed in the development agreement. And then again, the responsibility of the financing and all of the risk is associated with the developer. So again, we're here for first reading to move this item to a second reading on July 6th. When we get to July 6th, we'll have a number of other resolutions for TIF District 24, as well as the dissolution of TIF District number 22. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
All right, thank you, Dustin, for that. Anyone from the public here to speak on item 51 tonight? All right, not hearing any input there. Council, you have questions for Dustin on this item?
Move to approve, Erickson.
Second, Kylie.
Motion by Erickson, seconded by Councilor Kylie to approve 51 and send it to a second reading for Tuesday, July 6th would be the motion. Discussion on that? All right, hearing none, let's take a vote on it, please.
Council members Erickson?
Yes.
Jensen?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Nitzert?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Sale?
Yes.
Star?
Yes.
All right, that passes 7-0. Councilors, any new business tonight? All right, hearing none there, we'll move to general public input. Just as a reminder, input during this portion will last no more than 3 minutes per person. And so anyone who has anything for public input is welcome to come forward at this time. Good evening.
Greetings. I'm David Zokaitis, and it's such a hot tropical day outside, I had to put on a tropical shirt.
You look good.
Now I've got two topics today. They're related, but first up is home rule. You might not have known this, but City of Sioux Falls can supersede state law. So there's an example right there. It has to deal with parking. But the interesting part is that city can trump state, as illustrated right there. So I did some digging, and there's a quote from the Constitution. It says that powers and functions of home rule shall be construed liberally. It kind of sounds like you can do whatever you want to. And then there's another quote. It says, if there's any doubt, then the city can do pretty much what they want to. Here's a Illinois court case that says if the state wants to limit home rule, they have to have an express statement to that effect. So what this really means is that if the state is not careful, the city of Sioux Falls can do pretty much anything, within the Constitution, of course. That's important background for something that came up, I think it was last week during City Council. By state law, we are required to publish legal notices in the local newspaper, and there's the law. Turns out it costs about 70 grand a year for the city. Well, in the modern era, like 2022, we have websites, and they're more readily searchable than newspapers. Computers are great for that kind of stuff. So maybe it makes sense to publish legal notices in online instead of in a newspaper. In terms of access to legal notices, well, newspaper or libraries have newspapers, internet. People have smartphones, PCs. Internet's around everywhere. I think what the city ought to do is kind of continue the status quo and then check out this other option and see if it's going to present a problem to people. And then if it works out all right, well then, we can save some money and supersede state law. And of course, you have to have a nice picture at the end. And this is my backyard during a nice hot summer evening. So with that, good evening, everybody.
All right. Thank you, David. Anyone else for general public input tonight? Please come on up. Good evening.
Here we go again with the police department. We had an issue last night where I could have charged this person with 4 charges. And I decided not to because she was going through mental issues and didn't have her medication. I look at the 4 officers and say, which one of y'all were CIT trained? None of them. One officer said, Sierra, I'm ready to be CIT trained. So I said, so what's the problem? Talk to me. Why are you not? Because the police department don't have the funding. So I told him I would come up tonight to address this to council and the mayor to see why we can't get these officers CIT trained that want to be CIT trained, that were paid to be CIT trained. It's important to get your policemen CIT trained. I don't know what the funding and the problem is, but we need to get these officers CIT trained. I think there's 3 of them that are waiting, and the officer told me at the scene, hopefully one day I will be able to get trained with the Sioux Falls PD. So I told him that I'll come up here and speak, because again, they cannot come here and speak for themselves. Okay, so we had a meet and greet at the pavilion at 5:30 yesterday, and I only saw 2 council members for this meet and greet. Whether the mayor did it for political purposes or not, I don't care. This is the first time we ever did this in the city of Sioux Falls. We had 2 candidates that are very well respected, and it's going to be a tight, it's going to be very tight on picking who it is, but whoever is picked, you will not hear me stand up here and complain like I did with Chief Burns. So both of them. You know how I stand on external interviewing. Should have been open to external, but I'm very confident that this police chief, whoever is picked by the mayor and is voted by council, is going to do a wonderful job. I was very disappointed that we did not see all council members to this. If I was mayor, I would say that that was a disappointment, but I cannot speak for the mayor. I want to thank the mayor and Erica Beck for letting this happen, for good government and good transparency, to let the people know the 2 candidates and our backgrounds was very important.
All right, thank you. Anyone else for general public input tonight? All right, come on up. Good evening.
Thanks for hearing me again, guys.
Sure.
My name is Sarah Koob, and I live here in Sioux Falls. I don't know if you've been watching the news. It looks like our coronavirus was made in a lab in Wuhan, China. Okay? And my big problem is that some of the people we have been listening to for health advice, some of the entities that we've been listening to, the WHO, the CDC, the Department of Health, these entities were ran under a man who knew about it, I think had a role in making it, and now has trillions of dollars coming into his bank account from a vaccine that, whether you think Alex Jones is crazy, whether you think Zero Hedge is a crazy article writer, or even Fox News, we're seeing that something's been put into some of the vaccines that are magnetized. And there's a company claiming that they have made this thing, the magnets or whatever the nanoparticle is that's inside of the vaccine. They're saying that that is never to be put into humans. And it says it right on their website. I'm asking my city council to reevaluate where we're getting our medical information, or at least launching some kind of investigation, because I was denied medical services. There were 12 other people here that were here beside me and behind me when I first addressed you guys. And I said, this needs to stop. It's going to kill people. Okay? What they did killed people. 3 million people. And I think it deserves an inquiry. We were taken for a ride. And how badly we've been taken for a ride, I think is still out. But it's quite terrifying to watch videos all over the world of people sticking keys to their heads and doctors going before courts and being mocked in newspapers, out and out lying about the representation of integrity and ethics in science. Okay? So I am asking all of you, and if we have a city attorney here, somebody to do an inquiry, because we had a lot of people die. And my concern is that there's some kind of megalo villain out there who's got all of our pictures on a screen and can just go, oops, oops. Kind of like Suicide Squad. I saw that movie for the first time here 3 weeks ago. And that was after I looked up nanoparticles in Magnifico and SM-102, which are ingredients being found in vaccines from these companies.
Thanks, Sarah.
Okay, thank you. Have a good night, guys.
All right, thank you. Anyone else here for general public input tonight? All right, seeing none, I just would ask for a motion to adjourn us out, please.
So moved. Jensen.
Holy smokes. All right, Counselor Erickson, seconded by Counselor Jensen. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? All right, we're adjourned. Have a good night, everyone.